Hello there, mamas. It is another day. I had to actually go to the library because our internet was just slowed down from the storm last night. So I am still coming live, but from the library. Just so thankful that there's one nearby and that there was a study room available so I could do this today. But we have been taking the week to look at how do we live with kids? How do we create that haven even though we may have kids and all their toys and all their clutter and all their messes? How do we create a haven for us still? And today we are going to take a look at living rooms. And I know ours used to be cluttered with toys, but you can create a kid-friendly and adult-friendly living room. And that's what we're going to go over today. Some tips that I have implemented in our own home, along with tips I've read on other blogs and from other designers. And I'm just excited to share these with you. As always, if you have any more tips, I loved reading some of the tips that came in from yesterday's talk on mudrooms. Please share those. I just love to make sure that whatever has worked for us, that our whole community of moms knows just some different choices on how to create havens with the chaos of kids. So let's just jump right in today. Where do we start? The same place we always start with all our design processes, and that is doing an empathy exercise. So it's also involving your kids and just asking those questions. Who is our family? And what do we love to do in the living room? What do we want to do that maybe we can't? What feelings do we have? What do we want them to be? How do we want each person in our family to feel in this room? And the reason this room is important to really get those empathy exercises down is that it's not only where you do a lot of life, but it's also one of the first places that guests entering your home comes to. This is really, I know the kitchen is sometimes called the heart of the home, but for us, it's the living room. A lot of life happens there. So you want to make sure that it does represent your family and it's not just something you would find in a magazine, but it's really very intentional, designed for you and how your family lives and your kids. So remember to get them involved. And once you have that empathy exercise, you're able to create that intention statement and then that mood board. And those are the things that we're going to use as our North Star, right, in any design process. Making sure that we take the time at the beginning so that we create a very intentional driven space. So what are some of the tips that I have tried? I have tried a lot of things. If you take a look at my post today, you'll see a picture on there of what our space looked like, honestly, just a few years ago. I know that is our third child is the baby in the picture, so she's only 5 years old. So it wasn't that many years ago. I did all the things. We had a shelving unit, we had bins for the toys, and toys still took over. Our living room was completely just wasted with toys. It took forever to clean them up. There wasn't a good system in play. And so I have been there. I know the exhaustion and the overwhelm that comes from a living room overrun or overtaken by our kids. And so we made some changes. And the second image in my post is some of the changes that we have made. And that's not even what it looks like today. There are some additions that we'll talk about that we made to really help bring this space together. But you know, who has tried the cloth bins, right? Where we see them all over Instagram, those cloth bins for the toys, so great. I don't know about your kids. My kids destroyed those bins. They are just completely destroyed. They no longer hold toys. The toys got intermixed because no one knew which toys went where. We didn't have an organizational system necessarily in place. So the biggest tip that I have for living room is the toys. And so what do I mean by that? If you have toys in your living room, which you should because that's where kids love to play, I would suggest that you hide them behind closed doors. So either get a cabinet with doors or find a closet nearby. our living room is right off of our entryway. And so we had this coat closet that we had kind of like a cleaning closet in a way right in the entryway. I repurposed it. So I created, that is where all our toys are, hidden away in a closet, nicely organized, but still within reach of the living room very easily. And then we just repurposed. We moved things around. We moved the cleaning products to a different closet. We added a bench and coat hooks for our guests instead of having a closet, and it worked out really well. So now our toys are hidden away from our, like right next to our living room, so they're easily brought out. But our living room doesn't look like it's overtaken with kids' toys, because those big toys just start piling up, especially when you have little kids. And then when you're storing those toys in that closet, there's some really good tips for how to store toys so that kids will play with them. The first one being books. If you store your books, let's say on a shelf, how you typically would see, let's say at a library, right? You only see the binding. Kids can't explore books as easily if that's all they see. They pick out books based off of the picture on the front or how interesting it looks. And so if you can store your books so that they're front facing, getting maybe a magazine rack to put in the closet, making sure that they're front facing, they'll use the books a lot more because they know which ones they want to pick, and then they're actually able to take care of them as well. If you have them stacked nice and neat like a bookshelf, kids don't take care of those. It's very difficult for especially the little ones to be able to manipulate the book enough to put it away on a shelf. But if it's front facing, it's very easy for them to slide that in there and take care of books themselves. So now they're able to figure out what they want to look at, what book they want to read, and then they're able to take care of it as well. And then when it comes to bins, if you're able to hide your toys away behind closed doors, you're able to get clear bins. And so this way they can see what toys they're getting after, what toys they want. They can see them all right there. They're not cloth and covered, and they don't know what toys are in it, so they're bringing all the toys down instead of just picking exactly what they want. They're able to see the toys, all the little people in one bin, all the Magna-Tiles in a different bin that are clear so they can see. And if you have little ones, I suggest don't put the covers on the bins. They can't open those very easily. I would say right around 4 to 5 they can start opening those. And so that way you can stack. But if they're younger, keep them open. This way they can easily grab the bins out of the closet and play and put away. And no help from you is needed for the tops of those bins. And then the other thing is if you have big stuff, let's say we have a ton of blocks and those bigger Legos. I get the bigger bins and they just slide right on the floor in and out. And then I reserve one bigger bin for toy rotation. So if you have not done any kind of toy rotation, this is a huge lifesaver for your living room. I keep the toys they love to play with all the time, like Magna-Tiles and Little People for our family and books. And then I rotate out monthly. I have monthly bins that I store in our basement, and I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to this. They are themed. So April has certain things and May has certain things, and they have toys and activities that we do. You don't necessarily need the activities, but I do suggest having different bins for the different months and then doing a toy rotation for one of your bigger bins in your living room area. It keeps the toys fresh, and then the kids don't get as bored. But that is the biggest tip, is storing away your toys somewhere behind closed doors. Cloth bins don't work. The shelving units don't usually work because you can still see them and it creates messes. But if you can put it behind closed doors, there's only so much amount of space that you can first have the toys, and then they can easily be put away by the kids because they are within reach. Another tip, in the living room, make sure there's enough room for your kids to play. So do not crowd it with furniture for only you. If there is no room to play, they will find a mess to create somewhere else. Their imaginations need to run free, and It allows you the time to come down with them on the floor and play with them. If you're so crowded, you can't fit on the floor to play with them. You can't use your imagination. You can't giggle with them. Make sure there's plenty of room to play, to build that big train track on the floor or that magnetile castle. Ensure that there's enough room for them to play, and you will see their imaginations just flourish so much more. So if you have maybe a smaller living room, instead of maybe a coffee table, use end tables on either side of the couch, and don't have a coffee table for a little bit. That way there's plenty of room to play. Start to be creative in how you can create that space, even in little spaces. As long as you have an end table to put your glass on, that is plenty. You don't necessarily need a coffee table. Reserve that room for playtime. And if your living room is big enough, have the coffee table. Just make sure that there's room for play. Some of the other things, create spaces that they helped you with. So for instance, ask them, what do you want to do in this living room? And create those spaces. So our kids love to color or just be with us during the day because we homeschool, so a lot of homeschooling happens on the couch. How do we make sure that there is places in the living room for play still to happen? And they love to color. So we actually added a little kids table in the corner of our living room so they can, color on there very easily. They are able to do puzzles if that's what they want. Just the other day, our two olders were playing the card game Trash on there while I was reading to our little list. So having that added there for them, they feel like the space is also theirs. It's not just a place for adults. There is a place for them, but in a different maybe manner. You talk to them. How can we create something that's easily cleaned? And what kind of spaces do you want in here? Maybe it's adding a kid's reading chair in the corner. Anything to help them feel like this is also their space, but not cluttered with a bunch of toys. Another idea is if you want plants in your living room, let them pick one out. Have them take care of it. It really creates ownership to the space, and the kids love it. What else? Or maybe it's a special blanket for them that they choose. So it's something that they can take care of in their space. They feel like it is theirs. They have a comfy spot to go. What else? Making sure that you have kid-friendly textiles is a big one. But also, when it comes to kid-friendly, I don't just mean that they can be easily cleaned. Think about the different textures. Think about the pillows that you have. Kids love to touch and feel everything. So make sure you have smooth texture, and then you have maybe a cozy, soft texture. Bringing those in really creates an atmosphere that the kids can involve all their senses in. So think about the blankets, think about the pillows, on top of just having stain-resistant materials. And for us, even though I know we could get a white couch that would be stain resistant, we opted for a dark blue couch because, let's be honest, we don't always get to those stains in time, and even if they will clean out, you just don't get to it. So we chose a darker couch for that. So really balance, how much do you want to clean, or how much do you want to maybe stress over that you have to get to a stain, or choose the darker color. That way, you don't have to worry so much and stress out about that, maybe that little spot that no one can see. Some other tips, kid-friendly electronics. This is a big one. I didn't even think about this until I read it on a blog because we automatically do it. All our electronics are stored behind doors in our office. So they're actually ran through a PVC into a separate room. But if you're not able to do that, make sure that you at least have a cabinet with doors that can have locks on them so that the kids don't get those, because that can be a disastrous thing if they get into those electronics. And then another thing, limit corners. If you look at the picture of our living room, you will notice we have a hearth in our living room. I do not recommend that if you are building something new. I love it. The kids love to play on it. But I also freak out every time they spin around and dance right next to that fireplace. So very much limit your corners. Think about round coffee tables or even ottomans. I know even my brother and sister growing up cut their lips on an oval coffee table. So sometimes even opting just for the cloth instead at this point and at this stage of your life is going to be a stress relief for you because they can spin, they can dance, they can fall on that ottoman instead of cutting their lip on maybe a harder surface. So those are just some of the tips I have. What tips do you have? I would love to hear them. Please share, please comment, send me a message. And then the action step today is assess your living room. Ask your kids, how do you feel in here? How do you want to feel? What spaces do you need? Let's think of solutions together of how we can create a space for both of us, because mom wants to spend time with you instead of picking up your toys all the time. So what can we do? Let them be creative with you and create ownership. So that's the action step. Assess what you can do. Maybe there's something you can do this weekend that will just help out even the littlest bit. Find the spot for the toys to go behind closed doors. Start putting your toys in bins for rotation. Anything to help reduce that stress. And if you have any further questions too, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to help. And then as always, please share this with any other of your mama friends. This week, we're talking about all kids, and I know as a mama of 4, this is a huge area for a lot of us. How do we create that home with the chaos of having kids? And anything I can do to help, I would love. Please share your tips. And tomorrow we are talking about kitchens. So another very public space. How do we create kid-friendly kitchens so that you can focus on making those meals and how the kids can help you with that? But I look forward to chatting with you tomorrow. And I hope you guys all have a fantastic Wednesday. Talk to you soon.